Gert-Johan Coetzee is one of those few creatives who have mastered the term aesthetic in all its senses. His love affair with fabric and fashion began at the tender age of 6, and now he's famous for making couture dreams come true for both women and men. His illustrious clientele include internationally acclaimed media personalities such as Oprah Winfrey, Bonang Matheba, advocate Thuli Madonsela, US TV personality Kourtney Kardashian, musician Kelly Rowland. The list is just endless. It gives me great pleasure to be chatting to him here on Newzroom Africa. Gert, thank you so much for making the time to speak.
Thank you so much, and welcome to my studio.
You grew up in a very rural area in the Northwest province, a farming community, in fact, that just has one street, Koster, to now become this superstar in South African showbiz. Take me through some of your childhood memories.
I think I've always just, when I think back at my childhood, was just surrounded by so much love and so much nature and animals, and really a beautiful life, but very simple life, stress-free. I had such supportive parents. I was just surrounded by love. I've got such happy memories growing up.
And who would have thought that a typical Lassian like you would one day be a globe-trotter, an international fashion designer like yourself? I'd like you to take me back to growing up in the Northwest province. We know that transformation is not, in the farms particularly, is not such an open concept. Did you at any stage struggle with your identity, particularly your sexual orientation?
I think again, it comes back to your support structure and who you surround yourself with. I had support from day one. I think everybody was just celebrating this young, obviously gay boy that can sew and just loves dressing people and dressing Barbie dolls and dressing all types of different women and men. I think it was really celebrated my whole career, especially as I got older and the talent started developing and showing more. It was really more celebrated than it was a struggle. I did make my relationship with my husband quite public, and I love how other gay couples has also done it to kind of normalize the change. I think we all just have to be progressive in the way we think, and we need to have thought leaders. And when I started with my career, I never thought it was something that I had to hide or something that was unusual, because it was so normal for me and to my family and to the people of the town of Koster. I think that it was just so normal that Gert is open about his sexuality and he's married to a man, and it's absolutely 100% normal and fine and perfect. And I love to try and set that example for that small gay boy that was me many years ago, that maybe doesn't have a role model or doesn't understand what's happening to him. Why is he thinking and feeling so different, he or she or they? And I just love how social media has kind of now become such a positive playground for sexuality.
Now, Gert, speaking about your talent being celebrated in the town where you come from, I know that the creative space, the design space, the artistic space is not usually a favorite or go-to career for parents when they consider what their children should do in the future as they grow older. Did you at any point have to convince your parents about your love for fashion and that you would actually want to make that a career, or was it just a natural balance for the two of you?
So it was very different for me. When I talk about this, I'm so careful about the advice that I'm giving, because it was so unusual what happened to me. I was always very much into fashion since my birth. I've always dressed my pencils with tissue paper dresses. I've always created these luscious dresses for my Barbie dolls. I always had this knack for fashion, and I think when I was about 6, my parents realized if they're not gonna buy me some fabric, I'm gonna cut up a curtain. And that is why they were so supportive of my career from day one. When I was about standard 4, what is it today? I think they call it grade 6, yes. My fashion career started competing a lot with my schoolwork. where it was to a point where I couldn't balance both anymore. And that is when my parents decided to take me out of school and put me into homeschooling, which I think was such a great, so great of them, to give me that opportunity and to free up some time so I can really focus on fashion. And we homeschooled for a couple of years, and fashion started growing, and I started getting more clients and winning more competitions, and the snowball effect started happening where I came to the beginning of Standard 8, the end of Standard 7, where we just decided that I'm obviously wasting my time in school, which is not for everybody, but I was already showing a lot of promise in the design field. And they then decided I should leave school and go and pursue fashion full-time. And that is where I studied at the Northwest School of Design in Clarksville.
And speaking about that, Gert, you touched on a very important point, because quite a lot of what we would call big artists or big celebrities in South Africa did not complete school, and but they've made it big in their careers. So how do you, and they're now people that children look up to. So it must be quite a dicey thing to navigate through, because then doesn't it send the message that you can drop out of school, you'll be a success, look at Gert. How do you navigate through that concept?
I think it has to be dealt with individual by individual. I think if the child, I'm just thinking what advice I'll give to my own children when I have children one day, is I think when the child shows promise, but by the time I left school, I was already having a full-on business. I was already having a clientele. I was already excelling in fashion. I was winning every award that I was entering for internationally. So it was already something that was showing a lot of promise, and I think it was on the basis of that we made that decision that I should go and study. And we were clever about it, not to just start a business at the 16-year-old running a studio. I went to study and I did my diploma until I was 18. When I was 19, I came to Joburg, and then magic happened.
By the time you were in college already, you were an award-winning fashion designer. Did you in any way envisage that this is where you would be, or did you have any goal set for yourself?
You know, I just remember being surrounded by all these older children, and I was this young person, and I couldn't do anything but study. So that is what I did. I just really made sure that I excelled in it. I have always wanted to be an international designer, and I still have a long way to go. I think this is just the beginning of my career, and I get excited about how you can see the business grow. I can see the people around me grow. I can see my own talent personally and my personal growth grow every season when I do Fashion Week. Every season I keep developing myself, I push myself. I do internships around the world constantly to try and better myself and to bring that knowledge back to South Africa so that I can spread it throughout my team and we can create a better product in the end of the day.
And you've been in the industry now for a full decade. Describe for me the journey, the ups, the downs, the lows, the fun, the excitement.
Well, my brain works funny. Like I have a difficulty remembering bad times. Whenever somebody asks me about a bad time, I'm like, what's a bad time? And I know there has been, but I just never fixate on them. But I think I've before I started this 10-year career, I designed for a different brand for a minute, and that went so sour, and that was such a big lesson for me as a designer. And I think that is one of the things that kind of helped propel me into this businessman that I am today. That I think that was one of the harder lessons. And then I started Gert-Johan Coetzee. I think when the universe or God knows you are going down the wrong path, He quickly corrects you. And then when you're on that path, it is easy and joyful. And then when you start going off that path again, then that's when you start hating what you do. And then when you go back on the path. So I just always kind of use my gut as a navigator for where I should be going with my career. So the moment something is not joyful for me, I know this is God telling me I'm going in the wrong direction. And then I just change direction, and then things go easier again. So I really love to focus on the positive.
Yeah, so you remind me of the term that the young ones use right now, you are the bag, secure yourself. That's essentially what you've done, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't even know that term, but yes, well, I'm not that young anymore.
Basically meaning you bet on yourself. You decided that, you know what, I've got the skill, I've got the knowledge, I've got the education, and I'm going to now bet on myself and take the risk and establish Gert-Johan Coetzee.
Exactly. The best business advice that I've ever gotten is that the best investment is in yourself. And I do that time and time again.
And the business of fashion in South Africa, what is it like? What is those things that an ordinary South African may not know? I mean, for example, I can come here and say, Gert, make this dress for me. I want to look like a superstar. But not knowing what it takes for you to actually make this garment for me.
So the process of designing a garment is different. So we have two different umbrellas. We have Gert-Johan Coetzee, which is the big umbrella that's the holding company. And that is all these dresses that you see on the red carpet. Everything couture, custom made, handmade, very exclusive, very high end is called Gert-Johan Coetzee. Then we have our streetwear brand called Gert. And that is the fun brand. That is the young brand. That is t-shirts, it's jeans, it's leggings. We have Gert Sport. We have so many different avenues of the Gert brand, which is just young and youthful and fabulous. Those are the two types of avenues. And depending what the client wants, the client can come here and want a hell of a gown to turn heads and shut down the red carpet. And then Gert-Johan Coetzee, the brand, will create that. And that is quite a lengthy process. It takes about 3 to 6 months, perhaps even a year sometimes. If it's a wedding gown, we tend to work very long on it. Everything's handmade. Everything is beautifully stitched. We try now to create our own fabric in South Africa, which is also new for us. I like the term African couture, and I want to show the world what African couture can be at its finest. So that is my challenge with Gert-Johan Coetzee. My challenge with Gert is I want to create clothes that people can wear that is South African. I think we are too quick to run to a retail store and buy fast fashion where we don't know what we're wearing. I like people to look at the label, see what it's made of, see where it's made. For instance, the t-shirt that I'm wearing right now, this Gert t-shirt, it takes 7 recycled plastic bottles that's picked up on the streets of South Africa to make one of these t-shirts. Wow. All local, all spun, local cotton, locally manufactured. And that, I think, is such a beautiful story to tell.
And do you think that there's enough players in the business of fashion particularly? Do you think South African designers are, meeting the challenge and exploring all these avenues that are there?
I think the designers have to realize that this is no longer just a rands and cents game. This is a game about sustainability and about saving the planet. And whoever is going to jump on, I don't want to call it a trend because it's more of a lifestyle. Those are going to be the designers that's going to get ahead, because that is where the world don't want to go, where it has to go. And that is what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to make recycled clothes, fashion that is not as harmful to the environment, available to the masses, because we cannot blame the consumer for destroying the planet if the designers don't give them beautiful, sustainable clothes to wear. So that is where I'm starting this. I'm not perfect at it at all yet. I'm also just starting this, my second season, trying to do this movement. And it's just, I'm trying to give a beautiful product that is sustainable. So the client has the option. Am I gonna add to the problem, or I'm gonna be part of the solution? And both ways, you have to look amazing while you do it.
We're in conversation with Gert-Johan Coetzee, and he speaks about eco-consciousness, which is basically making fashion while preserving the environment at the same time. Stay with us. Speaking about investing in your business, talk to us a bit about some of the people, establishments, government, if at all, who invest in your work.
I think if you are gonna think that you are gonna get this magical fairy called the government to invest in your brand, you're making a big mistake. The best investment is, like I said earlier, yourself, and also just hard work. I funded this company with scrap fabrics, a few sewing machines, and just myself and one seamstress. And by creating and stacking funding and just really funding yourself in that way is how I did it. And that is kind of, for me, the best way that I would encourage others to do it, whether it is a coffee shop or a design studio. It really depends on your passion, and if you really want something bad enough, you'll work for it and it will happen. So I've really never received government funding or any investment from anybody else, nor do I come from a rich family. It's really hard work, taking a little bit, making it more, taking that little bit, making it more and more and more, and just really stacking and growing yourself.
Someone might look at you from the outside and say, but Gert just grew just like that, and all of a sudden he's got this big business. How do you navigate around that?
You know, I think the fact of fashion is that it looks very glamorous from the outside, but working in it, it's actually a lot of hard work. It's a lot of fun work. You're surrounded by such creative people and such magical people, but it's a hard work, and it is something that you really have to be passionate about. So I think just waking up every morning with a great attitude, a can-do attitude, and just go out there and slaying.
Not only are you a fashion designer, but you align yourself with some of the most pertinent social causes in South Africa. Speak to me about some of your work that you do in as far as breast cancer awareness, gender-based violence, education or literacy projects.
You know, I sometimes feel overwhelmed by the media attention that I get. And I just feel that it would be wasteful of me if I take it for myself and not share a beautiful cause through it. Throughout the years, I've really used my platform to highlight causes out there that bothers me. I mean, it is absurd that somebody getting raped and murdered makes it onto the back of a newspaper in a small article. I mean, that is something so shocking, gender-based violence, that it needs to get highlighted more. And I've used my platform many times to create awareness for all causes like that. We've created awareness for breast cancer. We have created a conversation piece for HIV. I felt at that stage with that collection that people walk past all these ribbons that we wear in support of or to raise awareness for all these different things, but people kind of forget sometimes what they mean. So what I like to create is conversation pieces, like I've done with the HIV virus. I looked at it through a microscope and I created an artist impression of the virus and printed it onto clothes. So when you wear the clothes, it actually tells a story, and by that it creates awareness to be safe, to take care of yourself and get tested. That is the type of things that I try to do, because I think if you're going to be preaching at somebody, they're not going to listen. You have to make it a part of the conversation.
And do you find that the message is heard in your art when you create pieces like that?
I think if it's created through art and through a story and through visual representation, then definitely the message, it starts to get through there. I mean, my sustainability message I've been hacking at for 2 seasons, and it is slowly but surely starting to take on. It is going to take longer than I thought it would for the message to get through to the public, but I will keep trying at it. They say, how do you cut down a very big tree? You keep hacking at it. And that is what I'm planning to do.
And I know that you do invest in education. I know that you have dyslexia. Is it something that encouraged you to invest in education?
Yeah, on my word, I still can't read or write. So that is, being a businessman, that sometimes faces a challenge. But I think it is one of the things that you kind of just work around. You surround yourself by amazing people that can read, that can write, and you just kind of like enable yourself in different ways. So that would be definitely one of my little tricks that I do, is I surround myself with people that knows much more than I do. And that is kind of a key to success, I think, for me. With my bursary program, we have been doing it for 8-9 years. I think this is the 9th year, one that I'm currently busy judging, where we get students all over South Africa, and every year we just get more and more entries to design the dream fashion, to win the dream fashion design bursary. And what you actually get is, and how I've kind of incubated this, is that you get to study at the Northwest School of Design where I studied. So I know what you are learning. And then in your holidays, you get to come here and do an internship with me, with my team. You get to really see the ins and outs of the program, and really we polish you. So by the time you leave the Northwest School of Design, you are a shining diamond, ready for the industry, and to actually go in and create jobs, create a future for yourself, not just going to fall back because you don't have the experience. So, and I can see my program working because all of my students are either employed by me, or they are employed by massive corporations, or they've started their own brand that's very successful. So that just shows you that when you take a rough stone and you gently polish it, and at the end of the day you get this beautiful diamond.
You come from a farming family, a farming community, and you're very conscious about the environment. Is there any work that you do that is involving the preservation of the environment?
You know, as far as growing up in Koster and the environment is concerned, the farmers around the area, I think they are also feeling the pressure that we have to be more organic with the food that we do. I know my family, we specialize in grass-fed beef, and that is kind of what they do. And I think creating also healthy food that you put in yourself is also part of longevity.
Absolutely. Now, in this industry, Gert, you speak about how you surround yourself with a team of people who know more than you do, who support you, who support your vision and your brand. Take us through some of the relationships that you've built in the industry. We know it to be quite fickle, but we do know that you have strong relationships with the likes of Bonang Mateba. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, I think the girls in my life, I love them, or the women in my life. We started as girls and boys, and now we are men and women. But I think, especially Bonang and I, we met each other at such a young age. We were both 18, we both started in the industry, and we grew together. We've always had this brother-sisterhood friendship going on that we don't always have to speak every day, but when we do, we kind of take it off where we left it. We speak one language, and that's fashion. So I think that is where that relationship kind of started. But I've always wanted to work with women or people that inspire me. So all the girls and boys, all the men and women that I dress and that works with me is all very strong in their own right, and they all shine in their own right. And I think that, for me, that energy inspires me. When it comes to creativity, I rarely get inspired by a flower or a tree or a bee. It's always a person and what they are like and what their mannerisms are like and how they treat people. And that kind of invokes ideas in my mind.
The industry is known to be cutthroat. It's known to be a dog-eat-dog environment. Have you experienced that? Do you experience it? How do you survive?
I think when you constantly try and reinvent yourself and you always give something of value, people will see the value in you and they'll invest in you. Whether it's through a t-shirt or through a wedding dress, they will invest in you. So I think it is to stay relevant, is to constantly redesigning yourself. This is a very hard industry. You can get cancelled overnight. So it's really about being an authentic person to start with, not being somebody that you're not and pretending to be something else, and also just constantly be creative, do the work. I sit nights in and days in, meditating, doing creative exercises, so that I know I'm the best possible version of myself for my clients and for the people that wear my clothes. To have the freshest ideas, to have the best ideas, traveling the world, do the research to make sure you're on top of your game, and you'll always be on top of it.
Speaking about relationships, Gert, you are married to your business partner and your brand manager, Vicky Fasachi.
Yes.
How do you navigate through that dynamic?
I think we have been married for so long and we've been together for so long that it's completely natural. Vicky joined the company about 7 years ago, when I started Gert-Johan Coetzee, and it wasn't making money. He was the person that actually had to have the 9 to 5 to make sure we had a roof over our head. So when the brand started taking off, he then left his job and he joined us as the brand manager. And it's magical. It's so nice to work with your best friend every day. Of course, there are ups and downs. Of course, the line between business and personal is always a little blurred, but we enjoy it. We get to do so many things together. We get to travel together. We get to design together. It's always nice to have a second opinion, even if I don't take it. It's just nice to have this person at the back of my head just also helping. So it is. We are one, and we run this business as one. And what I find natural about it is, if you look through history, all the greatest designers that came before me all had a Vicky, a husband behind them, pushing and making sure that the business flourished, because this is not a job for one person.
Yeah.
This is a job for a team.
You've spoken about reinventing yourself. I mean, the industry is ever evolving, constantly changing, curveballs left, right, and center. How do you stay sane? How do you stay balanced?
You know what? I have always been in a position where I've tried not to let my income come from one place. So I've always had the ready-to-wear and the wedding dresses and the matric dance dresses, so it's always been widely spread. Then Corona happened. No fashion for 6 months. That was quite funny. It's funny now, but when that happened, it was such a stressful time for us because I have such a big team to support. But we quickly switched gears and we started making even more winter wear. We started making beautiful hoodies, we started making more sportswear, we started making more masks, and we got through it. We are now at the other side of this, hopefully, and things are starting to pick up again. We are back in full swing of the gorgeous industry, which is fashion.
You know, you've brought me to what I was going to ask you, particularly the impact of COVID-19 on your business. How did you fare during the lockdown, particularly?
So everything came to a standstill, which was, for the first time in my life, I was not doing anything for so long. Remember, my day gets booked 15-minute slots. So to have nothing to do for 2 months in the hard lockdown was actually amazing, because I got to think a lot. I got to really decide what I wanted to put out into the world after the lockdown, and really again reinvent myself. I reflected a lot, and then we just picked up the pieces. The team started coming in, and we've just started turning the wheel again. But I learned so much. I learned how wasteful we are as humankind. I learned how attached we are to people, how social we need to be to actually function in our day-to-day life. So I learned a lot from myself, and I think that I'm a completely different person than I was before COVID. Before the time, it was important to me to please everybody. Now I'm here to please myself. So I'm going to do what's fun for me, and if it's not fun for me, I'm not going to do it.
Amazing. COVID-19 has impacted on all of us, industries of different kinds. Gert-Johan Coetzee is one such business, but he says he keeps reinventing himself. Stay with us right here on Newzroom Africa. Gert, you speak about the importance of having a solid support structure. Speak me through the importance of collaborating with other fashion designers in the industry.
I think surrounding yourself with a great team is definitely part of it, but collaboration is such a key thing. I love creating with all types of different people, different creative people, because everybody has such a unique point of view. I love collaborating with cultures. I just really love how you grow when you do something as a whole, as together. My assistants around me is also amazing, and they are all such great collaborators. We have Chris, that was one of the very first, about the 3rd year we ran the bursary. Chris won the bursary, and he has just turned out into such a gem. And where he started as a student, and now he is my first assistant, he has just really grown all the way. And I just love to have somebody that knows the brand, that knows me so well, to lean back on, and then really brings and adds so much to it as well.
The balance between the creative space and the business space. Doesn't one outshine the other? Like, I know the creative would want to scream out loud, and the business is more streamlined seriousness. How do you work through the two?
I immediately, when I started, things were getting out of hand, I went to a business incubator where we learned so much and really conditioned the business side of the brand. My best friend of many years is head of finance at Gert-Johan Coetzee. So I think it's very important to have somebody that you can trust, work with the business side. I myself like to think of myself as a businessman. I like to really create the joy of business, creating something. That's the creative side. So creating a beautiful dress, seeing the client wear it. So that is also satisfactory. And then seeing the money come in so that you can create another beautiful dress. That is the joy of business, the rolling of the energy. It's really the creative and the business side work so alongside of each other that one can't go without the other. If you are just a creative, you won't have money to be creative for very long. You have to be the business is a very important side, and the business is also creative. So if you get me, you have to be so creative with business, especially now with Corona in the world. You have to be so creative in ways that you make money, like the masks, for instance, or the hoodies. Just really think of other product ideas that excites people, that people would want to wear, and then also still pays the bill, because in the end of the day, we employ almost 30 people, and it's so beautiful that we can do that, and it's just by mixing the creativity with the business that we can do that.
That is amazing. And speaking of business, the commercial side of the fashion industry in South Africa, how competitive is it? How big is it even?
I think the commercial side of fashion is not great for me. It's called fast fashion, and it is very wasteful. Stuff gets made in massive quantities and gets worn once or twice and then thrown into landfill, where I try and create pieces that can get cherished forever, especially couture. Couture is something you hand down from generation to generation. You keep redesigning it, you upcycle it, you downcycle it. Couture has got a very long lifespan, and it's really more like an heirloom that a family owns. Where the fast fashion side, we also do a bit of sportswear, a bit of t-shirts, a bit of all those type of things, but we try and keep it very environmentally friendly. We try and keep it very exciting. If the customer isn't excited, they're just not going to buy it. And I think that is how you stay on top of the commercial side of fashion, is by creating something that others aren't. Nobody else can put hat on a t-shirt, only we can, and that makes us unique. Just small things like that just makes you competitive.
And as much as you're internationally acclaimed and dress people like Oprah Winfrey, you are still a South African. What do you make of buying local in fashion?
Yeah, so I am very much South African, and to buy local, the designers, the manufacturers have to give us great local products. I mean, we are all just human. If you have something amazing from China and you have something amazing from South Africa and they're similarly priced, of course you're going to buy the South African option. Or even if South Africa can make a better option, then you're rather going to go for that. Like music, look how amazing our music is in South Africa. And in Africa, we are light years ahead of the rest of the world with music. So it's just an example of creating a stunning product, and then people will buy local. You cannot be preaching that people buy local, and you don't give them anything to buy.
And speaking about buying local, another challenge becomes counterfeit products. Have you encountered that, where you walk on the street and you see a Gert design, but you know it's not a Gert?
We see that often. We often see people getting inspired by us. I think that
Inspiration, that's what you call it.
I think that is great that we can inspire a few retail stores, and we can inspire a few designers to also want part of the action, which is completely normal. And I don't find that threatening at all. I find it as a very big compliment to me. And the more people copy my ideas and my designs, the more I come up with new and original ones. So that is never a fear.
So you were a guest mentor on South Africa's version of Project Runway. Speak to me about such initiatives that you're part of, where you encourage or are part of the process of developing young designers that can take South Africa forward, much like you've done.
Project Runway is amazing, and to be the mentor on it was fantastic, but that is on screen, and that is of course very authentic. But I think I do much more that kind of work when the cameras are not rolling. Like I said earlier, my bursary program, every December we go down to the Eastern Cape and there's a massive enrichment project that we do there every year. So it's small projects like that that we don't always scream about, but that really makes the impact onto the young kids and the young designers' lives. Like I say, I can teach people about design, but I can also teach them about business, and I can also teach them about life. So those are the different lessons that I think somebody has to learn to be able to become a business person in any creative field. I mean, fashion is just my canvas. Other people has got other creative fields like singing, like fine arts, like shoemaking. There's so many options of it. You don't always have to want to be Gert or be a famous designer. You can be a famous artist, or you can be something else.
Gert, art is something that you really cannot box. I'd like you to speak to me about some of the most ridiculous requests that you've had on your garments. Someone comes in here and says, Gert, I want to be the moon or whatever.
I think those ridiculous requests mostly comes from me. Like, I am the one that's always wanting to do a dress that floats, a dress that looks like an umbrella, a dress that, and then I throw this at my team. I'm like, guys, this year I want the showstopper to look like an umbrella. It must just open up and it must just be light and airy. What are we gonna do? And then we get the ideas coming in. Tell them what the concepts are, and then people start brainstorming. We can do it like this, we can do it like that. So we do get funny requests, but most of the time it is just make me look like a superstar. And that is normally quite achievable. The difficult customer is me.
The t-shirt that you're wearing, the colors thereof resemble much of the 2020-2021 spring-summer collection. Tell me more about that. Definitely.
This is straight off the runway. This is straight off the new collection. I think it was so different doing Fashion Week this season. We shot it in isolation. Everybody had to be COVID compliant, and then we showcased it to a very exclusive audience and a stunning house in Sunning Hill. I wanted my closest customers and closest friends to really still see the collection in life. So one of my friends has this massive house with this gorgeous cinema in it, and we did it 20 at a time throughout the day so that we were all socially distanced, and we just watched the show over and over and over, and it was so grand and so elaborate. And this season I really wanted to show my heritage as a designer.
And what is your heritage, might I ask?
So I think I'm such a mix of everything in South Africa because I find everything so interesting. Of course, I grew up in an Afrikaans kind of environment, but I was always surrounded by all these gorgeous Tswana women and my Tswana friends. It was just really bringing that side of life to me. And then moving to Joburg and having that influence. And just really all these different influences of my life just came together in this gorgeous collection that is so avant-garde. I wanted it to be a reflection of what's happening in the world at the moment. And I think before lockdown, we all kind of cocooned ourselves in this armor, which was life. And I wanted to create a representation of that by creating these unusual silhouettes in the show. And then as the show kind of progressed, we stripped down the armor and it revealed this beautiful softness that we all now have. Because I don't think there's one person that came out of lockdown the same as they went into lockdown. Absolutely. In some certain way. So that was the inspiration this year. The collection is called Kgosilentswe because it was inspired by the Nguni cows that was on the farm where I grew up, and just really surrounding myself back into that energy was so beautiful. And I just love the meaning of the cow skin. A cow has got that beautiful representation between the spiritual and the physical. It's a link. And also what I found quite interesting in my research about cow skin is that it was one of the first monetary values. It was how you express wealth back in the day. The more cows you have, the wealthier you were. And I just loved how that has its own meaning and its own representation of wealth and health and happiness.
That really does stem the African heritage that you speak about. Tell me about the colors. I see a lot of cool blue colors, a lot of black in there. What was the inspiration behind that?
I wanted to use blue. I wanted to use this beautiful, milky, turquoisey blue that's just gonna pop on our African skins and just like glisten in the African sun. I liked that it looked like sky. I felt that we were so locked down physically this last 6 months that I just wanted to be open and wild. We went back to the farm where I grew up. We went back to the cows that I grew up with, and we shot the collection right there, models, lights, cameras, action, to really reinvent and relive that whole experience and invite people into my inspiration so that they really can see where it all stems from. So the color was very important to me, the open fields was very important to me, and of course the culture of couture.
Gert-Johan Coetzee is still in conversation with us here on Newzroom Africa. Stay with us. Back, we're with fashion extraordinaire and businessman Gert-Johan Coetzee. Gert, take us through what you're doing now. None of us have come out the same as we were before the lockdown and before the global pandemic hit us. What is Gert's life in the new normal?
I think my life is much better than it has ever been. I find so much time for family and friends. I love cooking all of a sudden. I love being creative. I've taken up knitting. I've just decided that I am not going to be everything to everyone anymore. I'm going to really nurture myself. And I think everybody should do that. And I like that so many people have been doing that. So this rat race of just trying to get to the next point, always running late, it's just over. Where we now relaxed, we're now very much doing what we love and only that. And since we're doing that, I must tell you, skies has opened. It is just so amazing how great my relationships are with friends and family, how amazing my relationship is with myself and with my colleagues, now that we don't try and always do more than is humanly possible. So we just do enough, and the more of enough we do, the more enough we get. So I just think it's in such a beautiful space at the moment of creativity and happiness and relaxation and gorgeous work and just abundance that I really can't complain.
It almost sounds like you found a new spiritual grounding, doesn't it?
Definitely. I think everybody has. I think everybody was so tired of the pressure of society that we now just do what we find fun for ourselves and just leave it at that.
And what keeps you going? What are the routines that you do? Could be exercise, food.
Definitely.
That just keeps the machine alive.
I am such a healthy eater. Like, don't get me wrong, I do drink plenty of champagne, but also I eat extremely healthy and I go to the gym 6 days a week. I try and really live an active lifestyle, a healthy lifestyle, because if we learned one thing from Corona, is that our health is our biggest asset in our life. You don't have health, you have nothing, and we all just have to take care of it. I've always been like that, but I just love how I am more health conscious than I've ever been.
And Gert, you're now introducing a new thing that you're doing or venturing into, which is fragrance. Briefly, tell me about that.
I think creating a fragrance was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. We flew all the way to Grasse, France, to meet with a specific nose that I wanted to formulate the perfume for me. We wanted it to smell like Africa, but in a very specific way, also have memories for me. So the scent of success is rose and smoke and oud. So it's very earthy, it's very Mother Africa. It's very much double platinum. So I've created this beautiful bottle all locally in South Africa that is silver plated. It looks like a gem that you've picked up out of the soil of Africa. It is really a body of work that really resembles my complete 2019. That is completely what I was focused on and completely what I wanted the fragrance to look and smell like. And I'm happy to say that it has been about almost a year now in the market. It's going extremely well. It was one of our saving graces throughout lockdown because it was one of the only things that we could sell. And now in December last year, I actually went back to Grasse, created a second fragrance. Lockdown did slow us down a little bit, but we are fast on track to finishing off the new beautiful fragrance that is launching hopefully soon. Hopefully, I think in February again.
You speak a lot about African natural resources. Which country on the continent inspires you? Other than South Africa, of course. I know that you've done fashion shows in Angola, in Nigeria, but where do you get all this inspiration? You keep going back to African natural resources. And
Guys,
it's quite
Nigeria.
intriguing.
Like, if I have to move anywhere, I'm moving to Nigeria. It's probably the funnest place for me besides, okay, South Africa. Yeah. I love going to Nigeria. Every time I get invited there, you don't have to ask me twice. I'm on that plane, I'm there.
But what is it about Nigeria?
The vibe, the people. I love how kind Nigerian people are. I love how beautiful the country is. I just love the vibe there. I mean, Nigeria is, you have to have been to Nigeria to just understand the vibe. It's complete a vibe. It's just magical. Doing Fashion Week there is one of the highlights of my year.
I get it. And what do you collect when you're in different countries? It can be in Africa or internationally. What do you bring back home that maybe may inspire you in your next piece of work or may inspire the next South African?
So I love interior designing. It's one of my passions. It's the side of the business that I'm slowly but surely growing. And I love traveling the world and bringing back conversation pieces. I love bringing back memories. I think pictures can only say so many words, where if you have a piece from a different country, every time you touch that bowl or that spoon or that Christmas decoration, it reminds you of that specific trip. And my husband and I travel extensively, and everywhere we go, we try and bring something back from that country to remind us of that specific trip.
And what does the future hold for Gert? Or are you at that stage? Because we're still not quite out of COVID-19 yet. In fact, there's a possibility of a second wave. In fact, maybe I should ask, should a second wave hit South Africa, how is the Gert-Johan Coetzee brand surviving?
I think the second time around, hopefully, we'll be smarter about things. I think we've all tried to be as prepared as we could be for if a situation happens. Nobody knew that it would be a pandemic. But I think now we have just gone into second gear, really getting those creative juices flowing, knowing who we are now in a pandemic where we cannot sell wedding dresses, we cannot sell red carpet dresses, we can just rely on perfume and our ready to wear. So that is really what we do, what we still be doing. I'm in such a lucky position that we have started shopgert.com in 2018 already. So we already had an online platform, and that is just growing more and more and more.
It's been 10 years in the fashion industry, Gert. What are some of your most memorable moments?
Wow, there's been so many. The day I dressed Kourtney Kardashian was the day the waters opened for me. I think that was my very first breakthrough into the international market, and it has really snowballed my career into what it is today. It was such a happy accident how that happened, but it's definitely a highlight. I think every garment we made, it won't be a Gert-Johan Coetzee garment if I don't give it my everything. So every single garment is kind of a highlight, but I must say the people that I've worked with in the last 10 years, working with Oprah, having her come to this very studio where you are now, getting a phone call from Oprah or even a WhatsApp from Oprah, that is just such an highlight. Every time I get one, it is a moment and everybody has to stop and we read the WhatsApp together. It is just small little victories like that we celebrate. We spoke about my perfume earlier, which was, I think, a highlight of my career in all. Like, that is something that I'm so proud of. And just being able to do what I love every day is such a beautiful blessing of the last 10 years that I can still be here after a pandemic and still keep on going on. I think it's just, I'm so grateful for that, and it's such a highlight in my life.
I mean, we must really butt elbows, because if you've met Oprah by association, I have met her.
Oprah.
I've also met Kourtney Kardashian, Kelly Rowland, and all the other stars that you've dressed. Speaking of the 10 years of GJC, what lessons have you learned in business?
Wow, so many lessons in business. I learned that cash flow is king. If you are living this fabulous life and that you cannot afford, that is just going backwards. Really try and push yourself, but stay in your means. I think that is very important. We spoke earlier about how important it is to invest in yourself. I would rather, before I go and buy another designer's clothes from a different country, I'd rather try and take that money that I would have spent on that shoe and create a shoe line with it, or create a t-shirt line. Just really reinvest in yourself. That is one of the most important lessons that I've learned. And really opening up yourself to other people's opinion and help. You cannot do this on your own. It would be silly if you think you can be everything to everyone. Just really try and collaborate with as many people as you can, and be strong and know where you're going, but also listen to people that know more than you do.
You've been all over the world, all over the African continent. Where would you still like to showcase?
Wow, I love showcasing everywhere. Of course, we all have dreams of showcasing in Milan. I think I have sussed the world, I've sussed New York, I've sussed everywhere, but I think I'd love to see my clothes on the runways of Paris, Milan, Italy, one of those countries. The European runway, I think, is next for me. That would be something very exciting for me.
Yeah, and if we can go back just a little to quite describe for me the creative process, because I can see your passion exuding, which makes me wonder, what happens when a client says, okay, Gert, this is the garment that I'd like. The brainstorming process, the design process, the visualizing of it. Please take me through that.
So when you come here for a custom-made Gert-Johan Coetzee gown, then we know it's going to be a moment. So that is the tone. We completely collaborate. Like, I'm not one of those designers that's going to force you into something that you do not want. I'm going to listen to you. We're going to talk together. You're going to show me your body. You're going to show me your scars. You're going to show me what you love about your body. And we're going to create something beautiful that's going to suit you. That is why I think when I design for this and that celebrity, they're both wearing hats, but they both look so different, because I collaborate with the individual and not force my opinion on them.
And where to from here? What does the future hold for Gert-Johan Coetzee?
From here, I would really like to focus on African couture. I would really love to show the world what African couture looks like at its best. We see what Parisian couture looks like. We see what the Dubai designers can do. But the South African designers, we haven't shown them what our crafters can do, what our manpower here can do, what our resources can do. So that is completely where I'm going. And then from there, growing the online store is so important to me, because that is how we reach our audiences, through our online platform. And just really investing in beautiful, great, sustainable fashion that people can wear and feel good about.
Gert, thank you very much for sharing your time with us. It has been an absolute pleasure being in conversation with you. Gert-Johan Coetzee, fashion, travel, business, spirituality, all encompassing South Africa's pride, who continues to fly our flag high.